Buckle up, folks, because you're about to embark on a wild ride through the vast, uncharted territory of, well, everything. This podcast is a veritable smorgasbord of topics, a buffet of subjects so diverse and eclectic that even the most well-rounded individual will feel like a one-trick pony. From the depths of the Mariana Trench to the furthest reaches of the cosmos, from the intricate workings of a fruit fly's digestive system to the complexities of quantum physics, we'll explore it all with the enthusiasm of a kid in a candy store and the attention span of a squirrel on caffeine. So grab a snack, get comfortable, and prepare to have your mind blown, expanded, and possibly even slightly confused. But in the best way possible. Let's go. George Washington. Let's start with the obvious. George Washington was one big mother hucker. At 6'20", with a chiseled jaw that could have cut diamonds and thighs like redwoods, the dude was an absolute unit. No wonder he had to stand in a separate row for colonial Instagram selfies. But beneath the larger-than-life exterior beat the heart of a savage prankster. Don't believe the bunk about him admitting to the cherry tree fiasco. That was a big fat lie. Young George was always pinning his shenanigans on the servants or his poor step-siblings. The cherry tree incident? He actually crop dusted the whole orchard after a hearty helping of Mother Washington's legendary bran muffins. Of course, being an absolute mad lad didn't preclude him from being one wise mofo. At 17, he had Confucius-level aphorisms dropping from his mouth like, "Associate yourself with men of good quality if you esteem your own reputation." Damn, G-Dub. Keep it 100. And that rep? Totally solid when it came to the whole I cannot tell a lie myth. The real Washington was a deceptive little minx who'd lie about what he had for breakfast. He gaslit the entire British Empire into thinking the coloniers were chillin' until, boom, tea got yeeted into the Boston Harbor. But for real, when it came to throwing hands, the OG Prez was no fluffernutter. At the Battle of Monmouth, he rode straight into the fighting, cussing up a storm and shaming his troops into not being little biatches. Then he got some grape shots straight to the jugger box and didn't even flinch. Try getting that kind of gangsta from anyone today. And yet, despite his Herculean stature and gruff demeanor, George could be a low-key freak in the sheets. The man loved him some sexy gardening books and had an absolute zest for horticulture. His diaries were basically a bunch of Danielle Steele-level erotica about trimming shrubbery and tending to his tulips. So was he the flawless founding Buddha that we've been taught? Nah, son. George Washington was a complex, hilarious, terrifying, and downright bizarre dude. But he was 100% Patriot Patty and got the whole damn nation off the ground through sheer force of will and probably some low-key witchcraft and voodoo. Put some respect on his name. The unlikely tale of America's actual natives. If you were to pinpoint the single greatest misnomer in all of history, you could make a strong case for the term Native Americans. It's a well-intentioned bit of linguistic recalibration to be sure, but really, it's about as accurate as calling the Dutch Native Netherlanders. The truth is, the humans we now call Native Americans have about as solid a claim to being native to the New World as kangaroos do to Australia. That is to say, they didn't just spontaneously spring from the soil like cabbages. No, these indigenous peoples were immigrants in their own rights, just like the rest of us Johnny-come-latelys. The difference, of course, is a matter of spectacular timing. Ancestors of today's Native Americans had the great good fortune to arrive on this vast, velty continent a mere 20,000 years or so before the first Europeans turned up, acting like they owned the place. Where precisely these original wayfarers came from is a matter of ongoing debate and genetic sleuthing, but the prevailing theory is that they were a hardy band of wanderers from Asia who somehow made their way across the frozen tundra of the Bering Land Bridge during the last ice age. One can only imagine the surprise of these prehistoric pioneers as they crested that final ridge to find an endless, untrammeled wilderness stretching before them. From those first explorers descended a dizzying array of tribes, cultures, languages, and civilizations more diverse than Europe at its most patchworked. The Navajo, the Cherokee, the Sioux, the Comanche, the Iroquois, the Seminole, the Choctaw, the list goes on in a glorious celebration of human pluralism. What's most remarkable is that for thousands upon thousands of years, these native peoples had the entire continent almost entirely to themselves. They hunted the boundless herds of buffalo, elk, and other megafauna. They fished the teeming rivers and coastlines. They cultivated crops and built cities and created art and language and culture free from outside influence or interference. It was a free-range existence that we latecomers can scarcely fathom. Then, in what accounts to little more than a historical blink of an eye, along came the Europeans with their guns, germs, and Bibles to completely upend the Native American world. In a few shockingly short centuries, these true natives went from having an entire hemisphere to themselves to being dispossessed, displaced, and, in many cases, nearly wiped out entirely. It's a story of conquest and survival that never fails to inspire awe and no small amount of shame. These were the people who showed our immigrant ancestors the way, only to have that knowledge thrown back in their faces at the point of a sword. If ever a people deserve the title native, it is those who have called this land home for tens of thousands of years. So while the term Native American may be technically misleading, it has taken on a greater significance, a meaning that speaks to the profound connection between a people and the only place their ancestors ever knew as a home. That's a heritage worth respecting, even if it did get here first by the barest whisker of geological time. Lo, the moon landing. O fraptious day, Callooh Callay, she chortled in her joy. So began the 20th day of the 7th month in the year 1969 A.D., a date whose import and singularity would be seared forever into the cerebellums of every sentient human, frail-bodied and air-sucking on Earth's tattered teat, all 3,617,806,500 of them, from the Parshwa Nath-Trest Jain to the Balinese Gamlian clanging Aga and the Alka-Seltzer gargling Iowan Mallrat, each of their individual yet corporately conjoined eyeballs trained like umpteen trillion rays from the Cyclops' unblinking gaze on the same unbelievable panorama of mankind's bravest venturing forth to extend its sweaty palm and cosmic high five to the sterile virginity of the pockmarked moon bitch, pale mistress whose every crater's curve and terminator's promise had for ages left us dribbling in our Fortran-punched pantaloons. And what an odyssey it was, spanning the very vasties of interplanetary space with all its Stygian gulfs and cosmic oceans' flat unplumbedness. Voyage whose sheer scale and protraction and existential daring-do would have made even the most phlegmatic of Scandinavian Ubermensch's palm sweat and their Viking brains go dizzy with vertigo. For 4 lorn solar revolutions did the 3 heroes, Armstrong, Aldrin, and Collins, surnames that, when examined for their symbolic portent, seem almost too cosmically on the nose to be fortuitous, hurtle through the listless void, imprisoned in their tiny sky chariot, with naught but their own mortal wits and the guidance of some furiously scribbling mathematicians to steer their trajectory. And when finally the eagle's talons did grasp the moon's dusty mantle, its landing was far from the serene and stately progress one might have envisioned. No, the poor vessel was practically in convulsions, her computations gone haywire, her fuel nearly tapped, her pilot's nerves as taut as an Appalachian granny's clothesline. Was all Armstrong could do to manually wrest her onto the surface while Aldrin no doubt gripped his seat, reciting the Lord's Prayer and promising his firstborn to the void if only they didn't become the first space-age pancakes. But land they finally did. And in that moment, the whole of humanity, from the Ubangi tribesmen to the Saskatoon zookeepers, achieved an apogee of cosmic transcendence and karmic oneness, their souls all briefly unclenched and united in a collective Bactrian camel through the needle-eye epiphany of wonder-struck awe. For one infinite nanosecond, all the rancid feuds and cultural clashes paused. All the Gordian knots of pride and fear and hatred were united in a single wordless chorale of celebration at what our insignificant species could achieve when it truly put its frail pink minds to it. So let those who wax cynical about the modern human condition take heed. On one lonesome day, we were all brothers and sisters gaping together through the luminous windows of existence, our jaws agape in a spirit of shared transcendence that yet beckons us across the abyss of years, reminder of the boundless and bonkers possibilities our upright ape spirits yet may achieve, if we could but keep the audacity of our hopes aloft like a Ganswent balloon, ever outward wafting towards new lunations. Let's talk about the moon landing, folks. When Neil Armstrong took his first steps on the moon, he famously said, "That's one small step for man, one giant leap for mankind." Little did he know that his words would be misheard by millions as one small step for man, one giant leap for a mankind. It's a good thing he wasn't referring to a specific type of man. To be a spacefaring civilization means that a society has developed the technological capabilities to explore and travel beyond its home planet. It's a significant milestone in the evolution of a species, making its transition from being confined to a single world to becoming a multiplanetary species. One of the key aspects of being a spacefaring civilization is the ability to launch spacecraft and other vehicles into space. This requires advanced rocket propulsion systems, navigation technologies, and the ability to manufacture and assemble complex machinery. It's a testament to human ingenuity and our relentless pursuit of knowledge and exploration. During the early days of the space race, a Soviet cosmonaut was asked how he felt about being the first human to go into space. He replied, "I'm not worried about being the first man in space. I'm more concerned about being the last one to come back." Another crucial aspect of being a spacefaring civilization is the ability to sustain human life in the harsh and unforgiving environment of space. This requires advanced life support systems, radiation shielding, and the ability to produce and recycle resources like water, food, and oxygen. It's a remarkable feat of engineering and a testament to our ability to adapt and thrive in environments that were once thought to be inhospitable. A NASA engineer was once asked why they spent so much money on space exploration when there were so many problems on Earth that needed to be solved. The engineer replied, "Because the problems on Earth will be a lot easier to solve once we've figured out how to live on other planets." Ultimately, being a spacefaring civilization is about more than just technological achievements. It's about pushing the boundaries of human knowledge and exploration, expanding our horizons, and ensuring the long-term survival of prosperity of our species. It's a journey that has captured the imagination of generations and will continue to inspire us for generations to come.